everyone. Welcome into episode 13 of Race Central Unplugged. I'm Syd the Kid, right next to longtime motorsports insider Kurt Hansen. Kurt, how you doing?
I'm doing great. You look very lovely. Are you like going to the prom or something, or what's up today, kiddo?
You think I'd be going to the prom with a beanie on?
It's a pretty hip look, I gotta tell you.
Is that what the kids do these days? They wear beanies to prom?
You're Syd the Kid. I mean, but I do get a lot of comments how pretty you are. So I have to, not to be flirtatious, but, I look forward to seeing you this afternoon for Race Central the Radios. We're back after a couple of weeks off for basketball.
Yes,
so it's been a lot of fun. 3 o'clock Mountain Time on AM 1600 ESPN Radio and streaming around the country, around the globe at racecentralmedia.com. So what have you been up to? I haven't seen you in a month.
I know. Well, I mean, we've been recording the podcast. But
that's true.
In the studio. Are you excited to be back in the studio once again?
Yeah, I am. It's funny. But after you've been doing this for 25 years, sometimes a little break is kind of a good thing. Get you recharge and a lot of good stuff going on. One thing I did forget to mention during the rundown, I do want to talk about our just kind of announced partnership with USA Today and Gannett, which is a big deal for Race Central TV, the longest running motorsports show on TV. But to have a broadcast partner like USA Today, I mean, my God, and Gannett, that is, as I like to call the certainly the brand validation of the Marilyn Monroe kiss on the cheek. So you don't wash that sucker off. So that's it's pretty exciting. And another release coming soon, probably next week. The Gannett deal is on my Facebook page, Facebook/Kurt Hansen, and then our TV Universe deal, which we've already been airing with them, but that official release will be up there too. So
TV Universe.
TV Universe. We are with Gannett and TV Universe, and actually a couple other platforms. We are global. We've been global for quite some time, but through limited distribution. Japan, South America, Caribbean, I think the UK, but now it's real and it's digital and it's highly trackable. And I mean, last year alone on one of our OTT sites, we had 1.8 million new subscribers. So obviously, the growth of Race Central is still, after all these years, is still very strong. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah,
I think talking about today, STK.
Yeah, well, I'll just say real quick, people are looking for motorsports content, so that's good news. But we'll just get right into our topics. NHRA at Wild Horse Pass for the last time, allegedly.
Very nicely put, Syd the Kid. Yeah, so. And for years it was called Firebird Race. I raced there way back in the day. The Bob Bondurant School was there. Bob Bondurant closed his school, and then a group came in and renamed it Radford. And there on that same platform, it's a great lake there for many times. And for many years when we were partnered with Lucas Oil, the title sponsor, and MAV TV, did a lot of broadcasting there for them and for Race Central TV for the Drag Boat World Finals, which is, November in Phoenix, or in Chandler, actually, 75, 80 degrees. I mean, spectacular. It's a great venue. It's a aged venue, and that land is all owned by the Indians. And the tribe that owns that property there also has the big casino there, which is spectacular. But there's been a lot of consternation. There's that word I like to use over the last probably decade. Not constipation. I said consternation.
Well, constipation is a word that you're familiar with.
How did we get on that?
Sorry, I just wanted to roast you real quick. Sorry. Anyways.
Oh, my God. That's a pretty runny subject. But anyway, I'm not the one who eats green goo, so we'll leave it at that. So anyway, the Indians have been a bit interesting, to put it lightly, to deal with. They're hot, they're cold, they fire general managers at the track, they bring in other people. It's a very, I hate to say it, but it's a very dysfunctional deal. And it's sad. It's a spectacular venue. The World Finals in November, the same week as NASCAR, is always a lot of fun. I go down, go to the World Finals, and go to NASCAR and enjoy the weather. But they said last year that, and we were there for the World Finals for the SDBA, the Southern Drag Boat Association. Just like I said, great weather, great time. And they've got a contract this year for the World Finals again in November. But, even as a promoter told me, the Indians they kind of do what they want to do. And so the allegedly, they were going to start developing all that land which they own and do all this fancy stuff out there. But they've been saying that for decades. And so they were going to build a new off-ramp where the property of Wild Horse Pass is, the lake, the drag strip, and the road course. And then I heard last week through a very good friend of mine who's kind of in the know down there that was off the table. So and the last thing they need there, frankly, is a bigger, wider off-ramp, because there's nothing there except for the Sheraton Resort, which is spectacular, and of course the casino and the resort there. It's beautiful. I've heard they're going to expand it, so I guess that could fly. But the traffic flow there doesn't need like a 4-lane off-ramp. So who knows really what's happening? Allegedly, this is the last time for the NHRA there. A very, very popular event because the weather is always beautiful.
Yeah. Well, do a lot of people get out there?
A lot of people go to that race.
Well, damn.
And during the pandemic, I want to say I think they did cancel that race during the pandemic, but I know last year when I was there in February, I've never seen that many people there. I mean, again, beautiful weather. It was February 2022. Everybody wanted to get out, and the crowd was massive. So I don't know. It'd be sad to see that race go away. I think this is like the 30th year or some crazy number like that, because it's kind of it's a heritage event. It's kind of a signature event, but the facility is old. It's old. It's old. It's tired. They put some lipstick on it a lot of times, and that still rubs off. They repaved a couple of years ago, which they had to do because the place was it was an old, tired facility, but still a very favorite facility. But we'll have to really see what happens. This is it's like trying to catch a twig in a tornado with the tribe down there, because it's hot, it's cold, it's on, it's off. I mean, we'll probably be having this conversation next year, but we'll have to wait and see. But it should be a great weekend of racing. I believe the weather is supposed to be pretty good. It's been very cold there as of late, but it's starting to warm up. Not like good old Colorado where, it's going to snow. We were going to pick up AJ Saturday and take him to the racetrack up here and watch practice up at Colorado National Speedway, but it's supposed to be rainy and cold. I don't know about you, but I'm a Californian, but I've gotten used to it. But I'm over the weather. Over. Can you spell it? OVR. Over this cold weather.
What do they do at that track? Do they do stuff at that track outside of NHRA, or is it just like dormant?
Very, very good point, Syd. I said years ago, if I was a gazillionaire, I'd have bought it. Of course, the tribe wouldn't have sold it to me. And I'd have concerts there with a floating barge on the lake like they do in Vegas, and put 40,000 people in there. The Radford driving school is there. So, and that's a fairly healthy ongoing deal. But they have the Lucas Oil off-road track there for the truck races and ATVs and UTVs and stuff. But Lucas got so fed up with dealing with the tribe that they pulled out, and that's why they said no more World Finals here. We're done. We're not. I can tell you stories that if I had any hair, it's kind of standing up. It's a very challenging relationship, and I think a lot of people, frankly, get fed up with the antics of the tribe because they're hard to deal with. I forget. There's like 2 or 3 tribes in that area there, and they all got their own interesting challenges.
Sure.
I'm not a bow and arrow guy, so I don't really care who they are. They're just hard to deal with. I probably shouldn't have said that. But.
Jesus, Kurt.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully things work out there, because it'd be a shame if they stopped having it. But
I think this. I don't know if they're actually really making any money there. They say they aren't, but again, it's all very secretive. And the NHRA just rents the track, so whatever that number is that number. But I do know from the backside of the story, it's a lot of shenanigans that go on down there, and who knows if it's really making money. The Radford School could find themselves, ousted. Lucas is already gone, so I'm not sure how many people use the tough truck track and the off-road track. But I do know this. I can tell you that the Lucas people got so fed up about 4 or 5 years ago. The guy that ran the drag boat series, so I won't mention his name, but said that actually I said to him, I said, so is Forrest looking to buy some property near here and build his own lake and facility and blah, 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 blah. I was just taking a flyer, but my gut told me that, my heart.
Yeah.
And he snapped his head around and goes, who told you that? I said, I'm just going from my intuition.
Yeah.
A woman's intuition. And he said, yeah, but the land was too far out. Whoa. So obviously I was pretty much on the money, but they did build Apex Racetrack, which is about another 20 minutes south of where Wild Horse is. But I believe, I know that's private land, and they built the racetrack out there, which is a private country club. And not very fancy, pretty narrow track, interesting, but nothing there. But that's private land. But, I mean, Lucas could have bought that land, but I know he wanted to do something that would be 50 times bigger than the platform that is there for Apex facilities, because he would do what he did in Wheatland. He would have a sprint car track, drag boat, off-road track. I mean, who knows? Tractor pulling track. I mean, he'd go bananas, and he has the money to do it. And God bless him. But we'll see. It's kind of sad, but the world's ever changing. I mean,
Whatever.
Bear claws at 7-Eleven are now $4. It used to be $1. Yeah. So, I know. I was there this morning.
That's the biggest tragedy of all.
And I love bear claws.
Well, okay. Anyways, moving on to something a little bit more interesting, in my opinion.
That wasn't interesting?
I mean, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. But
it's factoid stuff. Yeah, it's factoid stuff.
Maybe this is something a little bit more up my alley. So other people might find that one more interesting. But for me, I like to hear about Formula One.
And
there's a shakeup at McLaren. Drama. There's a drama all over the place, apparently. But let's talk McLaren.
Formula One is like the hot chick that can't decide what dude she wants to go out with. There's always drama. There's drama now at Red Bull with Sergio Perez, who won the Saudi Grand Prix a week ago with his teammate Max Verstappen. But that's pretty common in Formula One because these two guys, they're co-number ones. In the old days, you used to have a number one and a number two, but there's all kinds of lying and cheating and backstabbing going on. But McLaren, and I think Zach Brown has done a good job there. He's managed that effort quite well, but they felt that they needed just a refresh in terms of the aerodynamic department, because Formula One cars are so much about the aero, as we call it. And so I won't go into all the names and stuff because nobody probably knows them, but except if you're like a Formula One wacko, which there's a lot of. So he's made some changes, and the general feeling in Formula One is these were moves that needed to be made, and good moves. They think they'll be able to respond, because during the season you have to continually develop the car. Nobody sits still. And they felt like, they start the season spot on, is to use a Formula One term, but would start to lose ground to the other teams because they weren't developing as quickly as the other teams.
And why is that? Why does it take?
It just, it's so where your focus is. And Zach had a pretty big job to do when he got there, because the team was not performing well. It wasn't in shambles, but it wasn't, from the heydays of the Hunt era, Marlboro, McLaren as they were known, and Teddy Mayer and all the championships. So they're fine tuning, and I think it's a good move. A lot of the teams are like, oh boy, okay, well, we poked that bear, and let's see where that goes, because the cars have been pretty competitive already. But I don't think this season, and Lewis Hamilton, the crybaby, I'm just going to leave it like that. He says that Red Bull, and he's on the track with them, so he would know, as dominant as they have been so far this season, he says they may even be a lot better than they look, which means maybe there's a little sandbagging going on. But,
Wait, so that's the controversy at Red Bull?
Well, the controversy at Red Bull is, Sergio Perez won the race last weekend and would have taken the points lead for the Formula One Championship year to date. It's a long season to go. But Max Verstappen went out and set fastest lap of the race, and it was done very strategically, and you get 1 point for the fastest lap, which means now Max Verstappen leads the World Championship by 1 point. And allegedly there were team orders that were saying to him, don't do that.
Why?
Because they wanted Sergio to be able to say he's the new Formula One points leader because it looks good from a team perspective. The politics over there, it is what it is. I really don't care. We're a handful of races into the season, not even, and I like it. I like to see, if I was a driver in Formula One, I'd be carrying a Ginzu knife everywhere, everywhere I go, because it's a lot of fun. But hey, it's been an interesting season. But if Red Bull runs away with this championship, I mean, Verstappen won the championship. There was really no doubt midway through the season Max was going to win. Yeah. And, he did. So what can I say? Dilly for Max.
But Max Verstappen's number one, right? He's the best.
And he's two-time world champion.
Right.
Yeah. And he's very fast and very good and doesn't care about anybody. But when you're making that kind of money, I mean, Red Bull's going to fire him, really? Two-time world champion and leading the championship. And it seems like at will, he can pull a flyer out of his pocket and just be Max the Axe, as I call him.
Yeah.
Or maybe I should say Max the Knife. Oh, Mac the Knife. That's a great song from, I want to say, the 60s. I forget. Mac the Knife. Look it up.
Okay. Maybe we'll play it. We'll play it on the show tonight or this afternoon. So have you, I know we used to have a fellow on the radio show from Vegas. What was that dude's name? Rick?
Rick Rosen.
Yeah, he just, you could tell that dude loves motorsports, but
he loves you.
Well,
God.
Maybe. Or maybe he just thinks that I do a good job.
We know that, but I mean, I get to talk to Cindy.
But the reason I bring him up is because I don't know. Have you heard any updates or anything about the Formula One race in Vegas?
Well, it's all go. I mean, it is on, but it's
just a waiting game. But there's nothing.
They're building all the garages, or all the infrastructure's going in.
But it'd be cool to go and check that out.
I believe there's cameras. I think they have city cameras or something where you can kind of see what's going on. But it's full steam ahead. There's no issues there. It may end up being the most expensive Formula One Grand Prix in the world. And then today, well, yeah, but I mean, billions of billionaires will be coming in, and they're talking about where they're going to put all the private jets and that kind of stuff. Which should be interesting. It's going to be a hell of a party, but
there's going to be a lot of Saudis there. There's going to be a lot
of everybody.
European, dude.
Well, that's one of the fun things of going to Formula One race. Back in the day when I was first, getting into this, going to the Long Beach Grand Prix, and every restaurant you could hear, and I've been traveling around the world quite a bit at that point. Is an international ski racer, and it was really cool to hear all the languages being spoken. And it really, Long Beach was a real shithole back then.
Yeah.
Not anymore, but it really was, which is why they brought the Grand Prix there, because they wanted to bring the eyes of the world on Long Beach, make it a convention city, which I believe in a brief period, maybe 1 year, might have been the number 1 or 2 convention city in the United States. But anyway, but it was cool. I mean, you go to the Long Beach Diner, which tragically, after 55 years, closed right after the pandemic. And that was where I went every Sunday morning when I was racing there. No, because the food is great, but big portions in grease. But that was when I was announcing for IndyCar and Pirelli World Challenge. That was my go-to breakfast at the Long Beach Diner. And you go in there and see legends of IndyCars, IndyCar owners and stuff eating there, because it was kind of a thing. Like going to the Indy 500, you got to go to St. Elmo's. So I don't know how I got onto it. Maybe I'm hungry.
Gosh, what a shame that place didn't make it through the pandemic.
Well, I think the property there is worth gazillions of dollars because there's still so much to do. And it's right off the beach. So, but I'm not sure how we got on Danish and Long Beach Diner. Yeah. But
I was asking one more question.
Languages.
The language. Formula One. So
diverse as hell.
Yeah, the track in Vegas. Where, like, how close is that to the Strip? Do you know?
Well, it's on the Strip. They're utilizing the streets in Las Vegas to run the Grand Prix, much like when Champ Car was there, IndyCar, the series formerly known as Champ Car, race. So they race through the streets. So they're going to be using all, I believe, some of the same roads that they used for Champ Car / IndyCar back in the day. That it's going to be on the Strip. Trust me, there will be suites on the Strip that it's going to be amazing. It is going to be a spectacle. And I was just saying a minute ago, and then this morning I got something across the wire saying New Jersey is now lobbying for a Formula One date. So in a very short period of time, we have gone from no Formula One races in America for a long time. Then they built COTA. So then they went to COTA in Austin to having 4. That just shows, and Formula One's always said they have to be in this market. They have to be in America because they're global sponsors. And they're right. So that just shows the popularity of Formula One. Netflix during the pandemic, of course, Drive to Survive. They keep producing them. They're fabulous. IndyCar's got a project. And there's a lot of people in the know, me one of them, and people at IndyCar, like, we need to respond immediately to the popularity of Formula One. And if nothing else, ride that gravy train of popularity for open wheel racing in America. Because Formula One, if IndyCar's not careful, and IndyCar's had, great increase in numbers last couple of years, very, very good, exciting racing. But IndyCar needs to respond. And I think they need to get that TV project, out on the airwaves. I think there's some vignettes and things that are out there. I think one of them was called 100 Days to Indy or whatever. But they need to respond. And they need to respond very quickly because Formula One is going to steal a lot of the wind out of their sail.
Yeah. Well, I won't be too upset about that. But, I mean, you never want to see – I don't want to see IndyCar fall, but I would like to see Formula One.
Merry Christmas.
Wow. A couple months late there, Kurt.
Feels like Christmas. Only 8 more months until spring, right?
Kurt, you're getting up to that age where you could start dressing up as, like, you could, if you ever need if you're falling hard times, you could sign up to be the Santa Claus at the mall.
We're going to speak later, young lady. We're going to have a little pre-show chat.
Okay. Well, sticking with F1 or Ferrari, at least, Ferrari returns to prototype racing.
That's exciting. I can remember growing up as a kid, watching the Ferraris in IMSA, International Motorsport Association of Racing, back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, with Ginepro Moretti, who owned a little company called Momo. It's done okay. And then when I was doing Toyota Atlantic with Champ Car, Didier Taves, who drove one of the Ferrari SP300s, so I think they were open cockpit Ferraris in IMSA. Didier drove the Dick Simon Indy car at Long Beach, at Laguna 1 year, and I was part of that camp, the Dickie Simon camp, in my Formula Atlantic car, which was, to hear him talk about, and the Ferrari and the sounds and the whole thing about Ferrari. I mean, in today's day and age, because I'm a big time car guy, you know that.
Yeah.
I mean, Aston Martins, McLarens, I mean, they're all really, really cool. In some ways, maybe even and when it comes to, bits and pieces, maybe better than a Ferrari in some areas, or maybe cooler because it's new, it's chic, but everybody knows what a Ferrari is. And when a little kid's going down the street with his mom and a red Ferrari 308, the Magnum car, I had one, goes down the road, everybody goes, that's a Ferrari. There's something magical about the brand, the name, which is why Ford spent, back in the day, hundreds of millions of dollars to go to Le Mans, hence the movie Ford versus Ferrari, which I've watched again, great movie, to beat Ferrari at Le Mans because Ferrari was the brand and the deal. So, yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm excited to see Ferrari back in sports car racing.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, are you ready to move on to our final topic, or is there anything else you want to say on Ferrari?
What's our final topic?
Practice and qualifying events on Fridays and Saturdays. Which,
by the way, I got to Tony Stewart. I don't know if you've seen Tulsa King yet with Sylvester Stallone. Have you seen that?
No.
He looks like the world's best mobster. Tony Stewart could be his sidekick because when Tony slicks that black hair back, the little widow's peak, he's got that jacket on and kind of barrel chested. I'm like, oh, dude. He looks like a mobster. I love it. But he's doing a great job on the broadcast. He really is.
Yeah, everyone loves him.
Yeah, I think. But he said something last week that, and I like the fact. I mean, Tony, I should say, when Tony was a driver, there's a reason he was called Smoke. He can create his own stuff. He gets, he's very vocal. He'll, he's a real deal. Which makes me very happy to see the success he's having in drag racing. Leah Pruitt, I've known her since she was a teenager. We have a lot of fun when she comes here for the Mile High Nationals. So, but Tony said some things. I'm not sure if it's really ruffled feathers, but, the pandemic, and NASCAR responded very well to the pandemic, by the way, but because of cost, travel, interaction, most races, they took away practice and qualifying. They just showed up and raced. And then they've kind of brought some of that back, kind of on a selective basis. But NASCAR claims it's to save money, which I believe it is. But Dale Jr. and Tony both said they miss announcing a broadcast on Friday for practice. It's fun to see who unloads fast, who's struggling, who's making gains. I mean, it just – and I get it, but the networks are saving a ton of money not having to, roll cameras and crews and everybody on a Friday. The teams are saving a bunch of money. I don't think that's a bad thing, but it's changed the optics of the sport a little bit. I enjoy it when I'm there, but we got a radio show on Friday on ESPN Radio. We got a lot going on. So, but I used to maybe.
What do you mean by it's changed the optics of the sport?
Nothing to watch on Fridays. Some races they do, some races they don't. It's just it is what it is. But I say that thing called the pandemic really changed a lot in the world, and it's there's still evolution. There's still things that are going to be changing moving forward. So it is what it is, man. It's you can either love it, hate it, or go jump off a building.
Well, I think one thing that we can be grateful for the pandemic is this podcast, because I think the pandemic sort of spurred everyone to do virtual things, and podcasting definitely blew up. So it's give and take, Yeah,
well, as the old saying goes, as one door closes, another one opens. So we, I think, and I'm sick of the word, but we learned to pivot.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know what word you were going to say there.
Yeah,
okay.
Pivot.
One thing that we got back from the pandemic that we didn't have during the pandemic was being able to be in the studio, which we will be in a few hours for Race Central on the radio on ESPN Denver 1600 and streaming all around the globe. Kurt, we are at 30 minutes now, so we can wrap things up.
Great stuff, kiddo. And we might have an announcement regarding you coming up and me, but that's pretty cool. So,
yeah,
keep it locked right here, Syd. I'll see you in a few hours, and we will do our thing, young lady.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, again, for tuning into Race Central Unplugged to episode 13. We'll see you next week for the 14th edition of Race Central Unplugged.